What's up, everyone? Joey here. So you might have seen all the big tech sites covering this 4080 12 gig backlash and unlaunch that happened, which is fairly uncommon in the GPU world. And I've been benchmarking and gaming for over 20 years now, and I wanted to give my opinion because when I looked up, like obviously I watched these videos and I wanted to see what people had to say, and there is a strong mindshare mental game Nvidia are playing right now that is being swept under the rug. Basically, people don't realize it's happening. Even the biggest review sites are not connecting it the way me as a consumer look at it. And I figured I probably fall into the category of most people. So I wanted to share my thoughts on it so that you can make the best marketing choices when you go to buy your card, or just the way that you look at the products themselves might change after what I have to share. So, and I feel this is important. Like, people should know this because right now this is the bait, or it's like a bait and switch what Nvidia are doing. So basically, they unlaunched a product. All the attention is on the RTX 4080 12 gig. Okay, so we can, like, that's pretty much a given. That's how it is. But what's being swept under the rug is the 16 gigabyte model is not being scrutinized anymore. And the reason and what people are also doing is they're looking at where should it be relaunched as? Like, what product category should it be relaunched as? And this chart was made in a very specific way to fool people into thinking the 4080 should have been a 4070 because they've purposely done it like this. And you can look here. Look at the gray bars, okay? So this is the raw performance. They've purposely tiered it in a way that makes your brain connect the dots that a 4080, like 4090 is as strong as the 3090 Ti, blah blah blah. Like you just naturally make this connection that if it's going to be reclassed as anything, because all you've got to look at is the 3070, you think it should have been a 4070, and no one's even talking about the 4080 because it just looks like, oh yeah, that's where it should be, because 4080, 57, and 79 to 57, and because of architecture improvements, performance improvements, then it falls in where 3080 should be. Like, if you compare, they're comparing the two previous gens to make people draw a line between specific products instead of looking at the raw specs. And even the big review sites are kind of glossing over this fact. I don't know if they just haven't noticed, but I noticed, and I've got to share this to help everyone out. So here are the real percentages on product tiering. And it may not seem obvious at first, but there is a very specific way that they cut down from the top model cards, such as the RTX 3090, and they cut it down to 3080 to 3070 Ti, and look at these percentages, the way that it's cut down. It's not like they're using random numbers. They know exactly what they're doing, and these products fall into certain categories, and they have a certain performance deficit based on the reduction in shading units, TMUs, SM count, tensor cores, even the bandwidth also affects performance to some degree, and it falls into where they want. But the thing is, you've got to think about manufacturing costs and where the product should sit as a consumer. So if I look at stuff, I go, okay, well, I'm going to get the 4080 of next gen. I'm going to look at last gen, and that's what they've done here. They put these charts up and omitted particular cards so that you don't draw the conclusion of, oh, well, the specs match this card. They don't match. Like, you're just looking at this rough performance data, but you're not looking at how they've cut down the cards. And this is important. So we'll just take a look here. A 3080 was cut down from a 3090, 17% was reduced almost across the board. The memory bus reduced by 16.6%, and small reductions here. But the performance difference so it's all based off the 3090's performance. When I've done these calculations, they're percentage change calculations. I've included links as well for you to bring all the data up and calculate it yourself to confirm. But I think a lot of people might not realize this. This is how they do it. So if there was like a hidden formula on how they tier their products, this is it. So if you take a look here, 100% is 155 FPS. And I've used Tech PowerUp in particular because they happen to do an early benchmark as well. They've done, I mean, not early, but they're using F1 2022, which is also what NVIDIA used for their bait slides. That's what I'm going to call them, because they're literally baiting people into, they're baiting mindshare to think a certain way. They're tricking people. And that's just my opinion, though. I want to just stress that it is just my opinion. I'm just a single person. I'm not affiliated with anyone. I don't want like any kind of lawsuits based on what I'm saying. It's just my personal opinion on what they're doing, and it may not be in fact what they're doing. So anyway, if you just take a look at this, from a 3090 down to a 3080, it should be around about a 24% reduction. And the specs, this is the important part though. I don't really like architecture can change the performance scaling. So a certain amount of shading units on a newer model card with better architecture, a certain amount of any of these could lead to greater improvements down to the core architecture changes that they've done. Like they've obviously improved the architecture, not just jacked up all the counts, all the shading counts and everything. But if we just look at the relative performance from the top model card, a 3080 Ti is 12% to 13% weaker, and a 3080 is 23.68% weaker. So you can just say 23 or 24. Just say that. Like within a percent, that's roughly where you'd hope that the next generation of cards would land. But if in doubt, if you're not sure if the architectural improvements could give that kind of difference, just look at the raw spec reductions. That's how I would compare tiers. So when I'm looking at the 4080 unit release, this is what made me look up the shading counts, because I kind of like had it roughly off the top of my head. I knew that the 3080 was not 40% lower spec in hardware compared to the 3080 to the 3090. And then so I looked it up. I looked up, there's a GPU database. You can bring up all these specs. And this is the actual tiering that where the cards sit in terms of specs. So the 4080 16GB model has 40%, 41%, within a percent lower specs than the 4090. And which classic card has about 40% lower specs? 41%, within 1%, literally within 1%. So it's not even a joke here. 41% weaker than the top model card is a 3070 Ti class card. And that's where the 16GB model is that no one's even talking about. Like they just think, oh, well, it's just weaker, but it makes the 4090 look really good. But the truth is you should be looking at the 4090 and expecting your performance to, the 4080 performance to land within a certain percentage. And if you look at the percentages, it should have been cut down by about 17%, maybe 20%. And they've cut it down by a whopping 40%. Somehow they've still got like, actually, no, the performance scaling still, the 40% reduction translated into about a 28% lower performance in F1 2022 4K. And looky here, if you round that up, 28% weaker performance in F1 2022, according to Nvidia's own slides that I'm having trouble bringing up here. So I calculated this from 79 using percentage change down, and it worked out to match. Like it's not, I could understand if there was some kind of really large discrepancy here, but it's like hit, and ignoring the ROPs, that's the only spec that they never consistently, it's weird how they do the ROPs, but hit. The die size reduction, 37.57%. Sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. These were all hits. And then 38.51% and 37.57%. And take a look at this, within a percent as well on the die size reduction for the 4080 16GB, meaning it matches better to a 4070 Ti. So that's why I was like also getting confused. People are saying, oh, well, the 12GB model will probably get relaunched as a 4070. Well, let's see which one it matches. You probably already noticed it. 50 within a percent. Okay, within a percent for shader count, for ROP, for TMUs, for SM count, for tensor cores, for RT cores, within a percent of the reduction, specification reduction, would put it as a 4060 Ti, is what the 4080 12GB is. And that's not the worst part. Look at the pricing. Like, even though the pricing, we can't control the market and inflation, all that stuff, obviously things are going to be more expensive. So the pricing will fall into its own tiers based on the current market. So we can't really say that they've done anything wrong here. But the way I see it, a 4080 should have been cheaper, obviously, but it should have also been much better spec. And I wouldn't, as a consumer, I don't feel like it's good value to buy a 4080 that's really been cut down so much from the full GPU. That's how I see it. So I just look at the 4090 and I go, well, where's my 4080? It's not here. There's a 4070 Ti imposter masquerading as a 4080, and there's their failed attempt. And that's the thing. This is where I think it's a bait or a switch or something. It almost seems intentional how could Nvidia not know that this is how it would be received, unless it was done on purpose to kind of sell the 4090 and 4080. So, you know, they obviously they're screwing AIBs around, but if it was intentionally done, and I'm not saying that's actually how it is, it's just my own theory, my own hypothetical opinion, but if you wanted to fool people into buying a gimped 4080 and make the 4090 look really good at the same time because of that huge performance gain, which the reason it's so much more powerful is because of that 40% difference, right? The 40% reduction on the 4080 16 gigabyte. But if you wanted people to buy this card and also not scrutinize this card, you'd make this card purposely, you know, you'd make a scene with that card. So they've just chucked it up with the 4080. Everyone's gone, no, that's not right, because you can't have two 4080s, not looking at the percentages and the die reduction. And you can even see here that from 3090 to 3080, it was even using the same full die, and then they only reduced it by 37.57. It's a pretty specific percentage, but they've only reduced it by that percent for the 3070 Ti class product. And the 3070 has the same die size, so then even the 3060 Ti has the same die size, but then we look at the performance numbers. Is there any more similarities? Well, for a 3060 Ti or a 4070 theoretical, if it was a 4060 Ti, sorry, we would want, it would be around 53% weaker than a 4090. And the performance as well lines up exactly how you'd expect it to, within a percent. So if people are saying the 12 gigabyte model should be relaunched as a 4070, you're wrong. I think it should be relaunched as a 4060 Ti. The pricing, they can do whatever they want. They can, you know, they can be scummy with the pricing if they want to be, but just the public mindshare, I hope my video gets some attention and can actually push people, because we've already proven that complaining and pointing out a big vendor, like a big company like Nvidia, making a mistake like this, they will backtrack and fix their mistakes. And I got to give kudos to them for doing it. But on the offside, if it was done intentionally, they expected this, and they've done it on purpose to kind of manipulate where the 4080 16 gigabyte should be sitting. And no one's even going to say, well, redo the 4080 tier as well. Step it down to a 4070 Ti and reduce the price. Because they are going to reduce the price of the 4080 12 gig when they relaunch it. We've already basically surmised that. They can't not reduce the price if they relaunch it as a lower card. Okay? So ask for more. That's what I want people to take away from this video. And if anyone's saying, well, I'm just going to get the 4080 16 gigabyte, at least it's fine, you can just tell them, I'm going to share this link down in the comments, show them this graph, and let them calculate for themselves. You can literally, like, I'll just give you an example, just to show you how accurate it is. So percentage change calculator, just drag it over here, and then the base value. So you put down whatever spec it is, so 10496. Okay, and then we're going to look at 6144. What's the difference? Just to show that I haven't, you know, made stuff up. 41.46% decrease in specs, and that is exactly what it is. And if you calculate it for every other metric that's at the same 41.46, you will get it every single time, except for the ROPs. And it's just it's just mind-blowing that when I compared the F1 2022 4K performance and did the tiering of how the performance should be, that I was able to calculate it off NVIDIA's own slide and get the same result, like get the same gaps, except that they're in the wrong tiers. So wherever I put it, maybe I closed it. I've got it hidden here somewhere. Let's see. There we go. So yeah, I was able to calculate these same gaps in between these cards using this graph. And when I did that, it is just ridiculous that it could even just accidentally fall to that same performance reduction. 27.84% decrease from 4090 to 4080 16 gigabyte. And as you can see, like a 28% decrease, rounding within a percent, would land it on a 4070 Ti. And when I did that calculation, 27.84, and you can just see here, it's within a percent, within less than a percent of the performance of a 4070 Ti class card. is where it should be. So I hope this helps you out, helps your marketing decisions, and kind of shows you some light in terms of what's going on, because I just saw it all unfolding and I wasn't going to make a video. I'm not an influencer. I don't want to be an influencer because I don't feel like I fit into that space very well. I'm just like a random, enthusiast dude, but I don't have like tons of hardware to test or anything like that. I only test what I own, basically, what I use personally. But when I saw this and I'm thinking of upgrading to RTX 40 series myself, and I just saw that there was no good, like the RTX 4080 16GB is underwhelming and underspec. Yeah, I just have to share this with everyone. So have a good one, guys. I hope that helps you out, and take care. Bye.